On that note, let's go ahead and get started. I recognize quite a few names in the audience today, which is amazing. We've had a few webinars so far, call them webinars, workshops, whatever you want to call them. But we've had a few through Cyber in this past year alone. And I love to see that we have some repeat viewers and guests. So thank you for coming back. If this is your first time attending a Cyber webinar, welcome to our Cyber webinars and workshops. I hope you get a lot of value out of this. This is a great conversation because I know a lot of people are interested in learning more about securing their cloud environments, figuring out the cloud security posture, and Prowler is a fantastic tool for that, not just because it's open source, but because it's rich and full of functionality that we'll be able to take a look at today. And in fact, on that note, in today's session, we're going to start off with introductions. Who am I? Who's Toni? We're going to talk about Prowler and its multi-cloud capabilities with AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and then also its container security capabilities, Kubernetes, and so on. We'll talk about getting started with Prowler, initially just what it is, how it works, and so on, but then also actually pulling up and screen sharing iTerm through Tony's screen, and he'll be able to walk us through some of the more technical details there. And then we'll talk about some more advanced features like custom policies that you can use and create in Prowler. And then congratulations to Prowler for recently launching version 4. I think was it last month? Is that right?
Yep, exactly.
Perfect. Congratulations on launching a major feature release, version 4. We'll be talking about some of the features and what that looks like if you are interested. But on that note, Toni, if you want to take it away here to get started with your introduction.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you, with collaborating with all what you guys are doing. So thanks for having me today. And yep, I'm looking forward to telling everybody what we do. Yep, I'm Toni. I've been working for AWS and many other companies from long. I'm the creator of Prowler and also the CEO of the Prowler company. I've been, as I said, working for AWS for a few years as a security engineer and consultant. Also, but my background is actually on everything about open source security, like Linux, networking, hardening, and if you remember, some of you remember the first versions of Prowler written in Bash. You may see that I'm a very old school sysadmin. Now everything in Prowler is Python. Is much better than what I started. But yeah, I'm a proud old school sysadmin. And we are talking here from, in my case, from Granada, Spain, from a small town in the mountains. Christopher, you also are in the mountains, right?
That's right. Yeah, and I'll take over the introduction too. So I currently reside in Denver, Colorado, and so I'm a pretty big fan of skiing, as you can probably see from that picture. I think it's nearing the end of the season. I think I'm done skiing for the year, so I should probably swap out that picture to be something related to hiking. But yeah, absolutely love the mountains. We've been here for about 3 years, and it's incredible what you can do at higher altitudes. But I'm the founder and trainer at Cyber, where we do AWS cloud security training, and I'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end. But I have 8+ years of AWS experience, and when I say AWS experience, mostly just breaking stuff and figuring out why it's broken, and then starting over and eventually getting to a good solution. So it's been a fantastic experience. My background before that was primarily in web development. That's actually how I got started way back when you didn't have all the crazy JavaScript frameworks that you have nowadays, right? It was just you're using libraries, things like jQuery, pulling that in. PHP, I think there was like Zend and a couple other frameworks. So it's matured a lot over time, but started off in web development and then transitioned more into cloud roles, deploying applications on the cloud, securing those applications, architecting, things like that. And as I said, kind of reverse the introduction here, but I live in Colorado, love hiking and skiing. If you ever come by Denver and want to go on a hike, then definitely hit me up. Would love to do that.
I'll go to. I love Denver, and where I live is kind of the Spanish Denver, sort of.
I'll have to visit you, and then we'll have to have some kind of cloud security conference. I'm sure that will happen eventually in the Denver area. If it hasn't already, I might have missed it, but we'll definitely have to have that and invite you over. But so as we kick this off, I want to give you access to a free resource here if you want to download it at that link, cyber.com/Prowler cheat sheet. And I recommend this because a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is represented in this cheat sheet, and that it can just kind of give you a good frame of reference or reference point as well as how to get started, some basic usage commands that you can run, where you can go to download it, things like that. So definitely check out and download that cheat sheet. I'll leave it open here for a couple more minutes. It's completely free and you can download it and share it on social media or do whatever you want with it at that point. I'm about to move it. So if you need to take a screenshot, do it now. And then we'll have a link at the very end as well.
Yeah,
okay.
We will share the link later.
Yes. Yeah. We'll have a screen or a slide with multiple different links at the very end. So you'll be able to grab those as well. But on that note, I think we've talked enough about who we are and what this webinar is going to be about. Let's actually dive into the webinar. Let's talk about Prowler. If you had to describe it, Toni, what is Prowler?
Prowler is, you can click next. Prowler is an open source tool for security audits. Also helps you for hardening, compliance on most important cloud providers like AWS, GCP, Azure. And also we have added some features, some checks for Kubernetes. So now with Prowler, you can get an idea of how is your security posture, or not only for your cloud infrastructure, but also at the Kubernetes or containers level. Being open source means that we are open in terms of everything that we do and we provide to the customers, like the flexibility of writing your own checks, create your own reports, because we support all open standards like OCSF for JSON or ASFF for Security Hub integration, and also a very clear easy to use CSV. So you can open any output from Prowler in your favorite spreadsheet and do your own queries and reporting. With that said, we also support from version 4. I'm going to talk a lot about version 4 because we are very proud of it. Remediations, which is what we call Prowler Fixer, and it's great because with the remediations, you can do remediations at runtime. Sometimes that is not recommended, but other times remediations can be at the source code. With Prowler Fixer, you can do at any time of any point of your infrastructure or your code, infrastructure as code. And also, well, yeah, we are fully open source. We embrace open source in our community. We have a very large community. We have a public Slack forum where everybody can join. You can find the link in our GitHub. And of course, we are adding more features. You will see how we are growing, not only in terms of the checks and the checks coverage, but also in more features, integrations, and visualizations, etc.
On that note, there's a question that came through that I think is really relevant here. Let me go ahead and project it so we can all see what it is. But let's see here. So it says, what are the ways that we can contribute to Prowler? I see there are publicly available issues at GitHub, but is there anything else? Are there any roadmap or planned features that we can see?
Yeah, cool. So we have the developer guide that I'm going to share later. So if you want to write your own checks, your custom remediations, custom security frameworks, like compliance frameworks, and filters, the mute filters that we now have out of the box. But if you want to contribute with checks, we have a list of checks that we have done and we are planning to do. And if you join our Slack, we can share that link for the checks of the roadmap of checks and many other features. Yep.
Perfect. We've got a couple other questions, but we'll hold on to them, as I think we'll answer them as we go along as well.
Perfect. So when I started Prowler, that was because I wanted something very easy to use, not only for me, but also for the developers that were working next to me. And I wanted something very easy to use, like, okay, run a command and get green if you have everything nice, good to go, or red if you have to fix something. That was the main goal, something easy to use for anybody. And I started covering AWS. In the last year, we have added more support for Azure, GCP, and as I said, Kubernetes as well. So what is the typical use case when it comes to using Prowler or when it comes to doing stuff with the cloud? So first of all is get to know what you have in the cloud, because in the cloud, unless you are kind of an expert, you may have or may find multiple services in multiple locations, and you don't even know how they are configured. And I wanted to know how those things are configured. That is what we call a security assessment, an audit, or one point in time auditory, right? So you can use that Prowler for that. You can use Prowler also for hardening, because in the findings, we tell you the recommendation of actions to take when it comes to fixing something, failed findings. Compliance, because we support a few different frameworks where you can see if you are compliant or not with CIS, PCI, etc. Also, Prowler is commonly used for incident response. Let's say that you have an security incident in your cloud and you don't know what has happened. So you run Prowler with a very minimum footprint in your account or in your infrastructure, and you will see, sorting by severity and issue, the fails or pass, what has happened mostly is like, okay, now I realize that I have a database exposed to the internet or something like that. For pen testing, because we have some checks for to look for credentials, look for privilege escalation paths, all the stuff. Threat detection. We have recently released a couple of checks. I'll talk about that later, but you can detect some patterns in CloudTrail with Prowler as well to say, hey, we are currently on attack. Data visualization, finally, because we are not only giving you the files, the outputs like CSVs, JSON files, and all that stuff, but also in our SaaS, you have all the visualizations, but also a local dashboard where you can create all those visualizations or use the existing ones. And as I mentioned before, remediation, which is something that we call Prowler Fixer. Next, please. So how can you start using Prowler? This is very, very straightforward. It's pip install Prowler. If you have Python 3.9 or higher, it's as easy as that. So remember, Prowler supports so many different providers and has a lot of features. So the Prowler package is kind of big, but it's very helpful. You don't have to be installing multiple things. With PIP, everything is going to be installed in a bit, and then after that you can run Prowler and the provider to scan the infrastructure, or Prowler dashboard to consume the information. Okay, so let me share my screen, and I can start with some cool examples. This is going to be this one. Perfect. Can you all see my screen? Chris,
yep. If you don't mind, in the audience, you should be able to react with a thumbs up if it's large enough. If it's too small, maybe do a thumbs down so we can adjust it. But to me, it looks good.
Perfect. Okay. So as I said, if you want to install Prowler, it's PIP, Prowler, PIP install Prowler. If you have already Prowler installed, remember to add upgrade. In my case, I have the latest version. So Prowler -v. See, okay, I'm running the latest version 4.1. And we are about to release the 4.2 probably on Friday. We will see, with some fixes and some new features. But let me show you. The first thing that you have to do, of course, is having the credentials to scan. In this case, I already have environment variables with my AWS credentials. So I can run Prowler like this, Prowler AWS, and with only this, it's going to scan whatever it finds in the credentials. Of course, if you have a profile, you can do like -- profile, like production, if it's your production account or whatever. You can also assume roles in other accounts. That is in the cheat sheet. I'm doing the same for GCP, for Azure, or for Kubernetes. Okay, and then this is going to scan everything. Let me run only AWS at this point. AWS By default, something that I always wanted Prowler to be is very comprehensive in terms of coverage, the scope. So if you don't tell Prowler anything, it's going to go through all the regions or all the projects in Google, all the subscriptions in Azure, and you can also tell Prowler the organization's management account for AWS, and it scans all the accounts that you want, you can get from there. So in this case, if I run Prowler without anything here, in this case, it's going to scan all the regions. Since I want Prowler to be shorter in the execution, I'm going to filter by just one region. Let me do this. That's region, US is 1, for example. Okay. This is for the demo. Oops. Okay. This is because my token expired before this. One sec. Let me do this.
Show us your tokens, Tony. We want to see this.
Yeah. I have no. You're not gonna see that. So we have like 1 hour token, and I have to reload it. I did this before, you know, for the previous test. Okay, let me do this. Here. The demo gods. One sec again. Okay, there we go. Okay. So I do Prowler AWS dash region US East 1. This is going to take, it depends how many resources, but in this case, let me show you something a little quick. Here we can see in version 4 a little more information than in previous versions. Here I can see the profile that is getting, the regions or region that is scanning. You can add space separated as many regions as you want. If you don't add regions, it scans all of them, the account, user ID, identity, etc. Remember, you don't need administrator access. You only need the Prowler access, which is a CloudFormation template that we have in our repo, or the security audit and view-only access policies. Okay, that is in the documentation. In this case, I'm using this role because I will show you later the fixer. And by default, in version 4 of Prowler, what it does is to load a config file. I mean, in version 3, we have a config file as well, but not many people knew this. So if you go through this file, you are going to see so many cool things that you can do with Prowler. And by default as well, we load, we have something called mute list. But we add some resources there that they create noise. You cannot do anything to fix that. Like, for example, by default, Glue has a couple of resources that they are not following the best practices. That is not a big issue, but it's a fail on Prowler. So, or for example, Control Tower. Control Tower has Lambda functions, have roles, etc. They are a fail for a security best practice. Control Tower is an AWS service if you are not familiar with it. So we have this nice mute list file that is going to mute those failures that are not actually important. So this is making the results of Prowler more accurate. And also we look for services that are not in use. And by default, they can be a fail. Like, for example, the open block, the block policy for S3 buckets in Singapore. If you don't have any bucket in Singapore, that is not a big issue. Of course, you can enable this to see everything and fix everything. But if you are in a hurry or you want to see what is actually important now to fix, you have these files pre-configured. So remember, any CSPM and cloud security tool is giving you a lot of findings. So with these new features that, of course, you can configure by yourself, you are going to get what is actually important for you, like filtering out some regions or filtering out some services or resources. Or let's say that you want to remove everything that has the tag dev. So don't alert me or don't give me a fail if it's dev stuff, right? Okay, so now we have 304 checks, and we have a quick overview of the results by services, by severity here, and also say the JSON OCSF and the CSV file to work with it if we want to. We can also ship this to an S3 bucket, to Security Hub, etc. And all the compliance frameworks, a quick also overview of the status per security framework.
If you
That
don't mind,
is,
sorry to cut you off there, but I've got a couple questions coming through of people who are curious about these compliance frameworks. So if you don't mind spending a little bit more time explaining how people can find out which compliance frameworks are supported and what that actually looks like and how it runs through those.
yep, perfect. So you can do through one sec. Let me show you this. So you can here in Prowler you can type like AWS. I didn't go through the basic commands that are in the cheat sheet, but let me show you like this is different. What I have here. For any provider, you can type list compliance. So here for AWS, we have all these ones supported. So for example, if you want to see what is inside each framework, you can say list compliance requirements. Remember, every security framework has sometimes it's very technical, and other times it's like based on a public regulation. So what we have to do is mapping the checks, technical checks, or Prowler checks in this case, to a requirement. So you can see the list of compliance requirements, for example, for CIS 1.5, for AWS with this command. See, the requirement ID of CIS 5.3 is this and requires these 3 checks. Or you can do the same for other. Let me show you, for example, for CISA, whatever, this one. See, they have requirement, this ID, this description is this checks. So when you run Prowler, this is going to give you also a CSV per different as a result of each compliance framework. Okay, and then you can run every compliance framework independently, but by default, Prowler will give you results of all the support ones. For example, for Azure, we have CIS, and for GCP and Kubernetes the same. So we are, of course, we are working on adding like the MITRE attack mapping for Kubernetes and a few others also for GCP, Azure, etc. Of course, we have a larger coverage in terms of compliance for AWS because we started with AWS, okay? But of course, this is a JSON file. The mapping is a very, very straightforward JSON file that you can find in our documentation or in the repo. And you can contribute with that if you want, or create your own. Okay. Okay, so that is the basic usage for compliance. Also, we have some categories. You can list the categories. Categories is a way that we add that information checks into different categories, like encryption. If you want only to run the encryption related checks, in this case for AWS, you can do everything that I'm showing for every single provider. Okay, like threat detection or looking for secrets, etc., or only internet exposed type of checks. Then you can do like AWS, Prowler AWS. For example, if you are new into a new account, I always recommend into a new, you have to do a new security assessment. I always recommend to run Prowler without any option. So it's going to give you everything. And then if you are in a rush because you have a security issue, etc., you have to do for sure this. AWS categories, internet exposed, and I will do secrets. And the new threat detection. But threat detection, I'll talk about this later. Threat detection takes more time because it does a search into CloudTrail for the last 24 hours by default. So if you do this, I'm going to stop it, okay? I'm not going to run it because it's going to take more time. But if you do this, it's going to run all the checks related to internet exposed secrets, and you can see directly, let's say that you have an RDS database exposed into the internet, etc. Okay, so I stop it because I don't want to spend more time on this, but now you know more or less how to use those basics. Also, we have, remember, the support for shutdown. So you can type Prowler, let me do this, Prowler AWS. For Azure, it works the same, okay? Like dash EC2 Elastic shutdown, like this. And then you have to add the shutdown API key. If you're not familiar with shutdown, shutdown is like a Google for resources or and public exposed resources in the internet. So they have an index of everything that is somehow accessible in the internet. So what we do with Prowler here is we go through all the Elastic IPs or public IPs that you have in your provider, and we see if you have something listed in shutdown. And this is very helpful for pen testers because sometimes you are going to find some surprises, bad surprises in shutdown part of your infrastructure. In my last 10, 12 years doing security assessments, I have found, sadly, a lot of surprises in shutdown part of public IPs, like backdoors and things like that. Okay, running in printer servers that nobody knew because they were in a region that nobody was taking care. So this is a very good command that I recommend you also to run. I mean, we have a lot of different commands, but let me go through the fixer, which is something of the latest version. So now we have, this is something very new, the fixer or the remediations. So far we have some for AWS. So if you want to see the fixers or the remediations that are available, you have to use list fixers. And now, basically, what we have here is an additional file. I will explain a little bit more, that it does whatever is needed to fix the finding. What we started with the easy ones. The easy ones are the findings or the fixers, the remediations that they don't break anything very bad, and helps you to go fast through any compliance assessment. Like, okay, all the password policies to enable guard duty because the CIS asks you to enable guard duty or to enable security hub, and all that stuff, all those easy things that you can do with, and you can do that now with Prowler. So let me show you something. This is not going to work, but just to show you the example. Because I think I have this enabled. Prowler AWS, check this check if guard duty is enabled in this region US East 1. Okay, it is not enabled. Fail. See, I always recommend to do this like with dash verbose, and you can see actually the check. See the check. Okay, guard duty is not enabled. If this check supports fixer, and you type that fixer, and you have the proper permissions, what it does is, boom, it goes and fix it. In this case, which actually the fix is enabling guard duty. Actually, if I go again and run the check, is going to be, see, pass, boom, done. Next. So this is very helpful when you are, doing all the hardening stuff. In this case, we are fixing stuff in runtime, but the recommendation is you can change the fixer code if you want to, let's say, deploy some code with Terraform, with CloudFormation, or just send a pull request into your repository. Whatever, it's very comprehensive because it's Python. You can do whatever you want. We didn't invent anything. So it's something that you all are familiar with, and you can just run it. That's fixer, boom, done. Right? So we will, of course, add more fixers, but remember, having fixers for all the findings, all the in this case all the checks, can be a pain for you as a customer, because we don't want to break anything. So there is, when you use the fixer, use under your own responsibility. Okay, remember that. But to offer the community that flexibility is also something very very good. And finally, let me show you something else. In the version 4, we included something that I mentioned before, the dashboard. So you type Prowler dashboard, and this is going to load locally with it's going to start a server loading all the reports from output, the output file, the reports for the default reports for everything, and also for the compliance. And if you are a Prowler SaaS customer, you can also sync locally, and you can see what you have in the cloud and what you have locally as well. So let me stop sharing this, and I'm going to share my browser, which is here. Let me see. And I'm almost finishing this. Okay, 1 sec.
While you're doing that, I'm going to grab a couple of questions that I'm able to answer myself. For example, one of them was, where did it go? I just lost it. Oh, can we filter? Let me go ahead and project it. Can we filter results based on severity, like only critical or high? Yes, you can. Prowler has a lot of flags and parameters you can pass in. So you could say, I just want to see critical, I just want to see high, low, informational, whatever it is. So you can absolutely do that.
You can see my screen, right?
Yes.
So here, what you just said is custom metadata. So here you can filter, this is a very basic YAML file where you can say, okay, this check for this severity, this other check for the other severity, for any AWS, Azure, GCP, or Kubernetes. Okay, and if you go through the what is this? The mute list. Also, this is very comprehensive. So you can go and say, okay, this account for this is an example for AWS. This account for this check I only care if it's no, I don't care if it's this region or this user or whatever. Or see, there are many different examples here, and you can go through the repo and see the example that we have. And let me show you here. See the AWS mute list. As I mentioned before, if you have all this stuff enabled for Control Tower, this is a beautiful mute list that is going to give you more accurate result sets. Okay, and there are many others that you can configure based on tags. See here, based on names, whatever. Okay, so I remember I ran the local dashboard, the Prowler dashboard, right? So when you run this, you go to localhost 11666, and you get the overview. So are you going to get information from the AWS accounts, everything that is in your outputs, and no matter if it's Prowler 3 or Prowler 4. You can get the subscription, GCP information, etc. See, you can see here, filter by subscription here as well. Let me show you here also a table where you can filter by, for example, let me reload this 1 second. Let's say that you are you're a security practitioner and you are assessing a customer or your own all clouds. And then there you go. You are here with all the results to analyze. I say, okay, what is the first thing that you have to do? And that is the most important question to respond when it comes to security assessment. What do I have to do now, right? So go to the critical things. I have 2 critical findings here. You can go here, status fail. Okay, 2 critical fails. Okay, see, I have in this project in GCP, this firewall rule with SSH open to the internet, and remote desktop as well open to the internet. So let's go and fix this straight away. Then we can create we can go through some of these roles to see what's going on with them, like apparently there is a cross-service confused deputy stuff here that we can go. And of course, if this is a false positive, we can add that into our mute list file, okay? To not to take more care of that. So that is what you can go and browse through everything. Now, if you are worried about compliance, you have to follow any compliance framework. You can, in this case, go through different ones that we have here. Let's go through the CIS, for example, CIS 1.5 or 2.0, level 2 for AWS. This is going to go through only the AWS accounts and tell us what is our posture for this. Okay, we have a few things to fix. Let's see. See, we have to fix stuff here, like MFA enable. It is not enabled. We have to do it. Like the password policy, we have to fix that. The policy that allows full permissions. See, I have to. This is all good, but this one, I have to fix this one, administrator access, or this is just a false positive because I have to do some administrative stuff. So the same way for all the frameworks that we support for all the cloud providers, including Kubernetes, here you can go, okay? And of course, this is based on Plotly Dash, and you can create your own. You can customize these ones, and part of our roadmap is to have a more comprehensive platform here, and like what we have in the SaaS is going to be the same, okay? And export, import, all that stuff. And I think is more or less what I wanted to talk, but I'm going to mention the developer guide here. Let me go back anyway to the slides. Can you see my slide now?
Yes.
And I'm going to mention the custom checks later. No, I have it here. Yeah. So that is the developer guide. This is later on the links as well. So to create a check in Prowler is very, very straightforward. It is a very straightforward metadata JSON file with all the metadata for the check code itself, and the fixer. If you create that underscore fixer of any check, that is the way. Whatever you put in that code is going to be executed, which is very straightforward. More stuff that we added in version 4. More checks, as you have seen, the dashboard, the threat detection. Take a look into our documentation for threat detection because this is great. For example, if you run Pacu, Pacu is like a pen testing AWS tool or cloud tool. Prowler with this threat detection can detect that you run Pacu or other things. Also the fixer that I just showed and the cleaner results, as I mentioned before. And that's pretty much it, what I wanted to talk. Christoph, you want to add more? This is like a wrap up.
We've got a lot of really good questions. I don't think we're going to be able to get to all of them. And so one of the common themes I'm seeing across questions here is a lot of tactical questions. For example, how do I do this in the dashboard, or how do I run this specific type of check or this specific type of remediation? I know you pulled up some documentation on the screen here a second ago. Maybe we can skip over to the resource links slide real quick and also just share some general areas. Like if somebody has questions like that, how do you recommend they find out answers? Do you recommend they go through documentation, through the Slack? What's the best way?
They can go to the, let me share it in the screen. I'm going to stop sharing this. I can share here in the chat, in the QA. Where can I share this in the chat, right?
Yeah, well, let's see. I think you can do it. Yeah, I think you can type at the bottom there. It should send it out to all the attendees.
Let me see. This is this link. Can you all see the link? And also, let me share our Slack. You can reach out to us here. I don't know if this is going only to you.
I can't tell either. Give me a thumbs up if you're receiving what Toni is sending out.
No.
No thumbs up. Okay, hold on. Let me grab these and thumbs down. Okay. Hold on.
Oops.
1 second. Let me try this instead. Let's do.
I can add that into the questions, probably. Question.
I would think there would be a way to send this out. That's kind of silly. Hold on.
I just sent into the question, but yeah, I don't know.
There we go. Okay, I think that went out. Give me a thumbs up if you received that one. It should be in the Q&A tab.
Yeah, I sent the join our Slack, public Slack. Nice. Okay. And also I'm going to share the docs portal where you can find everything. There you go. Oops. Well, it has a typo. Wait. Sorry. I didn't show all the checks, but you can use the dash list dash checks. You see all the checks that we support, because I see some questions here. Do you want me to pick any random question to respond, or
Yeah,
you want
if
to?
you want to go ahead. I know as a personal fact from myself using Prowler and going through the documentation, a lot of the questions that you guys have are great questions and they're answered in the Prowler documentations. They did a good job of setting that up and providing a lot of the common stuff. So spend a little bit of time going through that documentation, and it'll definitely help answer a lot of questions. But Tony, if you want to go through and just spot pick some of these questions, that'd be fantastic. We can use that to wrap up.
Yeah, so there is a question about is Prowler a CSPM, DSPM, all that stuff. So honestly, whatever Gartner says is fine, but Prowler is built to help you putting your cloud infrastructure under control. Whatever it is called, cloud security posture management, whatever, is fine. But to say only cloud security posture management is probably not enough, because we have checks and features that it does more than that. But yes, if you want to put that in that type of products, it's a CSPM. It's open source CSPM. Let me see. They are asking, we support SOC 2, yes. I saw a question about Wiz. There is always questions about Wiz. Well, Wiz is a great product, but they are not open source. We are open source. We have we are what we call ourselves as open cloud security, because you can contribute back, because you can use Prowler, because you can change the code, because you can create your own remediations, your own detections from the command line, and also in a cloud service. So is this similar to Wiz? Honestly, Wiz is huge. It's 600 employees. We are like 12 employees now, but we are open source. They are not.
There's one question I'll grab here real quick, which is saying, I want to use Prowler for CSPM and AWS native CSPM. I think they meant to say, can you share best resources for that? We've actually got a webinar next week happening with somebody named Victoria from TechMagic, where she and her team went through and they implemented Prowler in their pipeline so that it's continuously on a regular basis running these checks and then outputting those checks to Security Hub, which you could consider Security Hub a sort of AWS native CSPM in a way. And so you can directly push all of those findings through Security Hub and manage that through that pipeline. If you're interested in seeing how to actually build out that pipeline, then go to cyber.com/webinars, and you should be able to scroll down to the bottom and register for that webinar specifically. Again, that's happening next week, I think exactly a week from today on Tuesday, if I remember correctly. So definitely check that out if you're interested in seeing how that works. The same person asked a question that is interesting, and I know you cover this in your documentation as well, but when you briefly touched on this regarding how you can perform a scan for your entire organization. So if you're using AWS, right, AWS Organizations is fantastic because it lets you manage multiple different AWS accounts. You could have anything from one account to hundreds or thousands of accounts. How do you use Prowler when you're dealing with that level of accounts?
I'm sending the link to the documentation where we talk about that and how you can do that.
Pretty straightforward though. Haven't looked at it personally. It's kind of crazy how easy it is to do that or to set that up.
Yeah, view only access. Yeah, I see, Christoph, you responded for the view only access and security audit. And also we have in our repo, let me share this with you all, because in our repo, we have a CloudFormation template that is very helpful. You can deploy it in every account, and then from your assessment account or security account, you can assume that account and that role, the Prowler scan role, and scan everything straight away. Let me share that here on the Q&A because it's a very straightforward template. And remember, with Azure, you can run Prowler to authenticate with the browser if it's locally. And if not, you can add those credentials in Azure or GCP and run it from wherever you want. Your a container in the cloud, workstation or VM in the cloud, wherever. Any more questions I can see? OpenStack. This is a very good point. So we don't support OpenStack, but the way that Prowler is written allows you to add more providers. So the same way that we have AWS, GCP, Azure, and Kubernetes, we are in the future going to add other providers. If you are open to add new providers, go to the developer guide, see how to create new providers. We are open, of course, to add new providers as the community needs them. So, for example, adding Office 365 support is something that we are thinking about to add, or even GitHub, to scan your GitHub stuff from Prowler is probably something that we will add eventually. I heard somebody from the community working on that, but I haven't seen the code yet. So, yep, that is good because you will see in the code. It's very straightforward.
The question about whether you can run Prowler from AWS Cloud Shell, the answer is yes. You can run it from AWS Cloud Shell, from Azure Cloud Shell, from pip, from Docker, from what else? What else am I missing? There's a lot of ways you can run Prowler, so that is not a problem.
Actually, if you go to the documentation, the quick start installation, you have the commands of all of those. Let me share this here as well.
Brew as well. I forgot about Brew. You can do that.
Yeah, Brew, install Prowler in your Mac, or if you use Brew on Linux, whatever. You can run Prowler from GitHub Actions if you have all the stuff. I don't think we have documentation about that. We need to have documentation about the GitHub Actions. The point is, from GitHub Actions or from Jenkins or from your CI/CD, code build, for example, as well. We have actually a template to run in the repo to run Prowler from code build. It's just Python code, so you can run it very easily and send the outputs, the reports, into an S3 bucket also straight away, or Security Hub, etc.
I love this. Somebody said you should conduct more webinars on Prowler. Well, good news. We've got one next week. So I think I
Yes.
broadcasted that link out. If you didn't get it, let me know. If you want to shoot me a DM on LinkedIn or Discord, let's actually set that up. Let me show you the slide where you can connect with us and reach out if you have any further questions. Because if you don't receive the recording after the fact, sometimes emails go to spam. I can't control that, unfortunately. So if you don't get it and you want it, feel free to reach out to my DMs. You can find me on LinkedIn at Christophe Limpelaere. We also have a cyber Discord where you can join at cyber.com/Discord. You can go there. You can DM me through that. I'm a very easy person to find. I don't have a lot of restrictions on my DM. So you can find me and shoot me a DM. I'm happy to share more information. Or if you have questions for Toni, you can also reach out to him directly. Toni, is there a preferred way for people to reach out to you? Is that LinkedIn or your Slack?
Yeah, LinkedIn is fine. Also, I have my DM open also on Twitter, on LinkedIn, in our Slack. Yeah, so I'm happy to chat with all the community and the people that is interested to know more about Prowler. Thanks everybody to join. So we have a good amount of people asking questions. This is great. I really appreciate all the interest. Christopher, we can create more webinars like this. So like for developers, for custom checks or custom remediations, visualizations. This is great.
Absolutely. And what's super helpful for me, right? I love these questions. Thank you so much for being so engaging, everybody who attended today, because it gives me an idea of what we need to focus on more, right? I mean, there's so many different directions we could go in, but if you keep asking AWS related questions, then we can focus more on AWS related topics. Or if you have questions about how to do this at the AWS organization's scale versus individual accounts, that helps us figure out what we can tailor these conversations to and focus on. So again, feel free to reach out in our communities. Feel free to keep asking these questions. That helps me figure out what we need to focus on. And I can go to Toni and say, let's schedule another webinar. This time, let's focus on talking about XYZ topics. So that's really helpful.
Perfect. Yep. Anytime.
Anything else you want to add?
I would like to tell everybody thank you again. Remember, we are building the open cloud security platform for everybody. So any feedback, just using Prowler or giving help with documentation, anything is going to be good for the whole internet security, because the more and more companies are moving to the cloud, and Prowler is going to be there to help everybody. So yeah, any help is welcome, and thanks for joining, for sure.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the feedback. Please let us know if there's any way we could have improved this conversation or this webinar today. I saw some comments, right? Like, we had a lot of questions coming through today. So if we didn't get to answer your question, or maybe you missed the answer, please reach out. We're here to help you. I mean, as you can tell, Tony's created an open source tool. He's obviously interested in giving back to the community. I'm sure if you reach out to him with some of your questions, he will be more than happy to respond. So he's always been a very friendly guy to me. I'm sure he'll happily respond to you as well. Toni, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. I'm glad we were able to do this.
Thank you.
Thanks for setting this up with me. And thank you so much. This was awesome.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.